Hello guys. So today we are going to see about how we can call external APIs in RAP. The name itself it indicates external API, external auditor service, which is not developed by ourselves. Whether it was a standard API, let's say we have api.sap.com. So there you have standard APIs. So when you want to call those APIs, how can I call? And similarly, you have some Salesforce APIs, so many other APIs, which is already built it. Okay, which is already built it. Now, the data model and the data for it and the logic for it, which is already entirely completely done. The only thing is you have to consume that particular API into RAP framework and display in the form of a Fury app at least. So in our current scenario, so we are going for an API which was given by the Microsoft. Microsoft is giving some of the demo APIs. Okay, Microsoft is giving some of the demo APIs. So you have to consume them if you want to consume, or if you have any external API, also you can consume that part as well. You can also consume that part as well. Now, if you wanted to check that API which has given by the Microsoft before we coming into that, see now, in order to call the APIs in ABAP, so we have some standard classes for that, so you can use that. But here, when you want to call that standard API, so you have to create a service consumption model. Okay, service consumption model. This service consumption model, it automatically create a proxy in the form of a class, my dear, in the form of a class. This manages the API to return the structures, and if you want to perform any kind of an operations also. Okay, operations also. So if I wanted to check, okay, what you need to do is you can just go to the Google and search as services.odita.org. You can search like this. Okay, you will be getting this portal. Okay, so you can go for the Northwind service. This is the service which has given by the Microsoft. So you have to call this API into your RAP framework, okay, into your RAP application. These are the different entity sets. What entity set you want to be reflected, right? Okay, you have to download this metadata. You have to download this metadata, my dear, because the entire data model structure, which is similar to this. So once if you create a service consumption model where this consumption has been happened, whether it comes from the RFC, whether it comes from the web service, whether it comes from an OData service, what is the data source to create a service consumption model, which is coming from OData service. So to upload that metadata, you need to download this particular OData service metadata, my dear. And firstly, why we need a service consumption model to call any API into RAP application is the question. Okay, imagine You are calling Salesforce API, another S/4HANA data service. You are going for the currency exchange APIs, weather APIs, whatsoever. You have to use this service consumption model. And without consuming the service consumption model, you would have to create HTTP client manually. You have to handle authentications. You have to build the URLs. You have to send the request. You have to you have to pass the JSON or XML responses, and you have to create an ABAP structures manually, handle errors by ourselves. There are a lot of manual effort which is needed for our thing. Okay, and it leads to more coding and manual JSON parsing, and definitely difficult to maintain. It is not a cloud friendly, my dear. It is not a cloud friendly. Okay, so now this is the just an introduction. Now let's coming into the creation part. Which entity I have to go? What are the CDS entity I have to go? See, the entire data is coming from the another API, which is not coming from the any CDS view, which is not coming from the any database table, which is coming from the external API. So that means whatever the data is there in the API, you have to display them. That's it. You don't need to written down a logic for that. So that means how the data model in that entity of an API, you have to create a custom entity to initialize only those fields, how it look like in the entity set of that particular API, which you wanted to call, my dear, which you wanted to call. Okay, so let's do the practical part of this calling external API into a RAP framework. Okay, so just right click on this. So here you will be having an option called as Save As. Click on this. So it will be downloaded. Sorry. So we have to download metadata, right? Not the entity sets. To get the metadata, what you need to do is you can put slash or dollar metadata slash metadata, my dear. You can put this, and you can also in the place of v3 you can put a v4. You have to call this. Okay, so you have to download this metadata. Right click, save as. So you can save it in the downloads, which is PRD API, which is products API. Okay, go for the save. That's it. Okay, so we saved our metadata. So now only thing is you have to upload this metadata where this data model is coming from. If you upload the entire metadata of a service, so that means you can consume any entity set in that API. When you observe the concept of metadata, metadata is not available for specific entity set. Metadata is available for entire API. So that means if you upload that metadata into our service consumption model in the form of a proxy, you can consume any entity set in that particular OData service. Okay, so now let's create a service consumption model, other ABAP repository object. You can search as service consumption model. Okay, go for the next. So what I can do is I can go for the, let's say, service consumption product. Okay, SCM for product API. Now you can see this remote consumption mode, how this data is coming from, which is coming from the OData service, which is coming from another OData service. Click on this. Go for the next. You can see now it is asking a service metadata file, my dear. It is asking a service metadata file. So whatever the metadata which we downloaded, you can upload that. You can select this, click on open. You can see now it is generated a class name because the entire the URLs part, the structure designing part, entity sets part, everything it creates an implementation in this class. You don't need to do anything. Otherwise, you have to return down code manually. See now what are the entity sets we have in that particular OData service which we uploaded in the form of a metadata, my dear, in the form of a metadata. Go for the next. If you want to have any e-tag support, which is having the lock object functionality, you can consume for any entity set and go for the finish. You can see now there is a one class specifically it create in that there is a lot of code which helps us to return how you can call the external API into the RAP framework. It generate a lot of code in that. So once it is created, we can able to see that. Using the service consumption model, calls to the external APIs are greatly simplified since a proxy is automatically created to easily manage the calls and their returns. Okay, this proxy can be used to make API calls in ABAP classes or in wrap objects with the custom CDS entities and expose them into Fury. You can see now, are we returned any piece of a code? No, right? So it is created by automatically. Okay, it is created by automatically, my dear. Okay, so now you can see now, right? Now you have to create a custom CDS entity. So you have to initialize this particular whatever the code which is generated in the form of a service consumption model. You have to initialize in the custom entity. Okay, you have to initialize in the custom entity, my dear. Okay, along with that, you have to go for the some custom entity implementations, and we can able to see that part as well. Okay, so firstly, let me create a custom entity first. So custom entity, it is also one of the CDS template. Right click data definition, 𝗏 external API, custom entity to call external API. So go for the next. Next, you can go for the custom entity, finish it. Okay, so you don't need width parameters. Okay, all right. So in this, so whatever in that service, what is the entity set you wanted to call? In that service, what is the entity set you wanted to call? So in that, what are the fields in it? Let's say I want to call the entity set called as products. For example, if I has to show that, that's completely your wish. What is the entity set you wanted to call? This is product. Okay. In this product, we have product ID, category ID, okay, product name, quantity per unit, everything. Okay, you have to call them. You have to initialize what is the type of it. Okay, what is the type of it? So let me, we have already gone one class, external API. Production API. Okay, so this one's right. Product ID, product name, supplier ID, category ID, quantity per unit, unit price, unit in stock, unit in order. So let's copy this and paste this, paste here. Okay, so let me save it. So now to implement the custom entity, you have to go for the separate class. So object model dot query dot implemented by. So you have to define a class name to call to implement this custom entity. Okay, let me save it. Check the syntax and activate it. So as of now, this class is not yet created. That's why it is showing an error. So let's copy this class and create a new ABAP class. Right click on the source code library, new ABAP class, _CL external API, class to implement, call API. So the interface is 𝐼𝐹 query provider. Go for the next, finish it. Okay. Now, so what are the basic things for implementing the custom entity? Let's go initially for that. Okay, which is top, skip, what is the requested element, sorting, filtering, like that. Okay. After that, we were trying to do. So data top, for example, equal to, in this we have IO request. And this IO request, we will be having get paging, and this paging get page size. Okay, sorry. So just copy this, and similarly, let's go for the skip. Get paging, and this we have get offset. Okay. And similarly, we have if any requested fields, define that as well. Let's say IO request, get requested elements. Similarly, for the sort, and this IO request, we have a method called as get sort elements. Okay. Similarly, we have filter, IO request, get filter. Okay. So now the remaining code, what are the things which it required to call API? So which is already generated in service consumption model. So get that, because you have to construct the URLs, you have to construct the API path, everything. So that everything which will be handled in the form of the service consumption model. So what you need to do is you can copy this and paste it in the class. Okay. After that, you need to perform some changes. Okay. Now, firstly, so let me remove all the unwanted things. Okay, see now repository ID, which is default, which is proxy ID, which we created service consumption model. This is the version, my dear. This is the version. Now, so what you need to do? Firstly, you need to create an URL where this OData service is coming from. This OData service is coming from services.odata.org, right? So you have to create this URL first. You have to initialize this URL. So to initialize the URL, so for that data, let's say hello destination, we have a class called as CL underscore HTTP underscore destination provider. In this, we have a static method called as create by URL. Okay, create by URL. So whatever the URL you have, okay, you can provide that. What is that URL? HTTPS /services.odata.org. This is our URL, my dear. Okay, now, so you have to initialize this destination to the HTTP client. And for this client, it creates a destination for the URL which we have given. So for that, which will be available in the HTTP client, equal to CL web underscore HTTP client manager. In this, we have a dedicated method called as create by HTTP destination. Initialize this, whatever the destination we created for our service URL, you can initialize that part. Hello destination, my dear. Okay. Now you have to do what we need to do is among this entire API, what is the entity set you wanted to read, you wanted to get, and also before that you will be getting service route. Okay, this service route which is inside our this thing right here. So what you need to do is inside that services.odata.org, this one, right? This is our service route where it's coming from. Okay, now copy this. So if you want to initialize v4, you can initialize. If you don't want, no need. Otherwise, you can put v2. Let me save it. Okay, now what we need to do here. In this, what we need to do is you have to initialize the entity set which you wanted to display when it returns the custom entity, my dear. When it returns custom entity. So for that, you need to define some of the declarations. So data and this LO read, for example, list request. This is type ref2 slash IWBEP slash IF underscore CP underscore request underscore read underscore list. Next is LO entity list resource, for example. Okay, type ref2, the class is slash IWBP slash IF underscore CP underscore resource underscore list. And the final one is response. List response, whatever the entity set which we initialize. Type ref2 slash IWBEP slash IF underscore CP underscore response underscore read underscore list. Okay. What is that? Okay. Let me check this class is existed or not. Response. Read LST. Okay, not the list. Response read LST, not the LIST. That's why. Okay. Now, so you have to initialize this entity set first. To initialize the entity set, which we will be getting into this parameter. In this, we are already defined our proxy, Hello client proxy, where we have our service consumption model, which we call our metadata. So automatically you're getting this entire entity sets in this, right? So in this, we have an instance method called as create resource for entity set. Okay, you have to initialize your entity set, my dear. And this my entity set was products. Okay, now once you initialize your entity set, so you have to read that entity set. To read that, what we need to have is read request. In this, so whatever I'm getting the entity set, so you will be getting into list resource. Okay, you will be getting create request for read. Okay, because you want to read that entity set data, my dear. Now, after that, once you read it, you have to execute that. Okay, so for that, we have in the response. And there's whatever the request which we have, which we read it, and thus we have a dedicated method called as execute. This method will help you to return whatever the read which you done. Okay, now final is you have to get the response, my dear. You have to get a response. Okay, so now, so response equal to, okay, in this response, we have a dedicated method called as get business data. Okay, so you now get the business data of the list of the entries, list of the entities. Okay, so when you see here, we have ls business data. Okay, this is only a structure of our API, sorry, which is our service consumption model. When you put F3, when you put F3 in your keyboard, it will be navigated to that. See now, whatever you created, for whatever you uploaded, see now, every entity set structure will be inherited automatically. This is the work area, my dear. So now similarly, you have to create an internal table. So which is LT business data type table of. So what you need to do is just copy this. Okay. Now what you need to do is in this business data, so whatever you have, you are initializing that, you can define that LD business data, my dear. Okay, you will be getting all the data into LD business data. Referred parameter, ometer can only be importing parameter. Okay. So in this, we have importing parameter. In this, we have ET business data. You have to initialize in this. Okay. See now, when it is generated, it is giving some default or some dummy data, but I don't want that because I need to get all the data from that entity set. I'm removing that. Okay. So you don't need these parts as well. Okay. Now, so let me save it first. Check the syntax. No errors currently. So now, so let's go for the response of our entity, which is IO response. Set total number of records, which we get in the business data, which is lines of, which is describe table, LT business data. Okay. And similarly, you can create another internal table and you can move it into that, or directly you can go for this IO response. Let's see. IO response, we have set data. So you can consume our internal table, LT business data. That's it. So let me save it, check the syntax and activate. Okay. So let's create a service definition, my dear. New service definition, ZSD external API service definition for external API. So for the source type was a definition. The entity which I'm going to expose was, what is our entity? 𝐳 external API. Instead of writing here itself. Reference object is not active. Okay. So let's activate. Now let's create once again. So just right click on this entity, new service definition, ZSD external API, service definition for external API. Go for the next, finish it. So you can go for the proper naming convention as products, extend the business services, service definitions. You can create a service binding from the service definition. Service binding for external API. Okay. Just go for the V2 because it's just a read-only app. We are just calling that. Finish it. Okay, so let's activate this and publish. Okay, so it generated. Let's see whatever the data we are able to see in the API, are we able to see in this application as well? Okay, you can see, you can filter out this API whichever entity set name. So all the entity set names are last you will be getting. Employees, categories, customers, order details, see now products, right? So just copy this, put this. Okay, so this is the data you are able to see for this entity set. Okay, now let me check in the app level. There is no entries. Okay, great. Let me put the breakpoint. Are we able to get the data or not? After that, we'll be able to see. Toggle breakpoint. Click on OK. Click on Go. Okay, breakpoint is triggered. You can see in the LD business data. In the LD business data itself, we are not getting. That's why it is becoming 0. Right? So what we need to do for this?